In France, Ligue 1 giants Lyon have been hit with a provisional relegation at the end of the season and issued a transfer ban due to financial mismanagement that has Lyon $500 million in debt.
I'm telling you, we're not getting relegated.
Olympique Lyon, a team synonymous with success, iconic players, memorable moments throughout footballing history, and one of the true greats of French football. Undeniable talent from start to finish. Lyon won 7 consecutive league titles from 2001 to 2008, and they were the team to beat, with players like Karim Benzema and Michael Essien, and even more recently having the likes of a Lucas Paqueta or Bruno Guimaraes representing the side. And it was clear before PSG showed up with their multi-billion-dollar football project, the large scaling of investment, Lyon was the top team in Ligue. Now imagine the same club facing expulsions from the league. It sounds impossible, right? Well, this is the story of Olympique Lyonnais, one of football's most dramatic falls from grace. From 2002 to 2008, Lyon wasn't just participating in French football, they were French football. 7 straight Liga titles, a feat that not even the current PSG team with all their billions has managed to match. They had it all: stadium, atmosphere, academy, development, star players, names like Juninho, who will forever be regarded as one of the greatest set-piece scholars in history. We could go on and on. Lyon and ambition, they went hand in hand. This wasn't just some lucky run either. Lyon had built something special. A model club that others were trying to emulate. They had the perfect balance of smart recruitment and youth development, financial stability, and their president, Jean-Michel Aulas, was considered to be one of the more responsible operators in European football. Fast forward to present day, and the situation couldn't be more different. It has been 3 consecutive seasons where Lyon has missed out on Champions League football. And for a club with this history, the money spent, the development, the talent, the namesake, the branding, that is far from reaching the bare minimum of expectation. The defense, far from a brick wall, the attack not clicking or connecting on all cylinders, the atmosphere is still the atmosphere, but maybe not the same fortress it once was, and the fans who used to dream of Champions League glory are now just hoping to qualify. Culminating the players getting a dressing down from Lyon Ultras after an embarrassing 4-1 loss to PSG. And as each season passes, the competitiveness of the squad continues to dwindle, or at least be in question. Even with the individual superstars that have been sold for multi-millions, haven't necessarily equated to fixing the problems on the pitch. While the men's team has been in a bit of a free fall, Lyon's women's squad continues to set the standard in European football. Same club, same city, completely different trajectories. And it's a stark reminder of what Lyon used to represent and what they could be. And unfortunately, the side is slowly being asset stripped, with Lyon's owner, John Textor, selling 52% stake in the women's side to raise funds for the club. So how did we get to this point? Let's talk about the managerial situation first. Or managerial situations, we should pluralize. In the last 4 years alone, Lyon has burned through 6 different managers. Just let that number sink in. 6 managers in 4 years. Bruno Genesio, Silvinho, Rudy Garcia, Peter Bosch, Laurent Blanc, Fabio Grosso, and now Pierre Sage. Each arrival brought a new hope. Each departure left the club in a worse state than before, with more questions than answers. And this constant chopping and changing has had a devastating effect on the team's identity. Each manager brings their own style, their own system, their own ideas about which players should start, who should move to the bench, development, focus points, plan of action, tactics, formations, just general club culture. How can players develop with consistency or continuity or work into an organization when the person that's leading the team changes every few months? But it's not just about the managers. Lyon's recruitment strategy, once the envy of European football, has lost its way. Remember when this club could spot talent like Karim Benzema or Lacazette before anyone else? Now they're spending big money on players who just aren't delivering. Let's look at some of the numbers. Lyon, of course, sold Bruno Guimaraes to Newcastle for $40 million. Paqueta to West Ham for 51 million. And more recently, we saw Gusto move to Chelsea for just over 26 million. And how could we forget Castello Luquiba, RB Leipzig, 30 million. Good business, right? Well, here's the problem. They're still selling high, but they've forgotten how to buy low. Look at players like Tino Kadewere, was brought in for 12 million, but struggled to make an impact relative to expectation. He's seen multiple loan deals while at the club. Or even Jeff Reine-Adelaide, 22 million investment, who left for minimal return. The famous Lyon Academy that produced Benzema, Lacazette, Tolisso has dried up a bit. And it's not just about money, it's about the strategy. Lyon used to be the masters of finding undervalued talent. Now they're selling their best players and failing to find suitable replacements. And each transfer window sees more quality leave than arrive, and the spiral continues downward. And most of that comes from the boardroom, which has led to financial strain. In December 2022, American investor John Textor bought a controlling stake in the club, valuing Lyon at 884 million euros. And this deal marked the end of Jean-Michel Aulas' 36-year reign as the owner, a period that has seen Lyon rise from relative obscurity to becoming French's dominant force. Let's break down the numbers because they tell a story of their own. In the 2022-2023 season, Lyon's losses nearly doubled from 57 million euros to nearly 100 euros. Revenue did increase by 24%, going from 160 to 199. But here's the kicker, their operating expenses exploded, rising by 29% to a whopping 340 million euros. The wage bill, that shot up by an eye-watering 58%. And remember, this is all happening while the team's performances on the pitch are getting worse, not better, paying inflated prices for deflating results. And at the top, the assumption must have been more money spent, more money brought in, and better placement on the actual pitch, which we all know that did not happen. That did not occur. And things got so bad that the DNCG, the French football's financial watchdog, had to step in. They put restrictions on Lyon's transfer activities this summer, effectively telling the club, sort out your finances or else. Textor's response, a bit of a sarcastic press release titled "Welcome to France," and that probably didn't win over too many French friends, and he is adamant that they have nothing to worry about. He talked about going after PSG and promised to spend big to restore Lyon to their former glory. Speaking of Textor, let's talk about his multi-club ownership model. Through his Eagle Football Company, he also has stakes in Crystal Palace, Botafogo, RWD Molenbeek, and the idea was to create synergies between the clubs. Shared resources, player loans, that sort of thing. And it's not new to football. We've seen this approach with City Football Group or also Red Bull, where you're able to have loans and move around players seamlessly without as much issue throughout the transfer window amongst different markets. But up to this point, Lyon seems to be getting the short end of that stick. And what makes this situation more complex is Textor's vision for Lyon. This wasn't just another club purchase. Lyon was meant to be the centerpiece of his football empire, similar to how before mentioned with Red Bull has a successful network of clubs. The idea was brilliant on paper. Botafogo would provide access to South American talent, Molenbeek would help players qualify for work permits, and Lyon would be the prestigious European showcase club. But here's where the theory meets reality. Running multiple clubs requires enormous financial resources, and the Lyon purchase alone required deep pockets. And Textor struggled to find investment partners. And while giants like City Football Group have made the multi-club ownership work, they also have seemingly unlimited resource. And Textor's ambitious vision of competing with the wealthy through this model has instead become another burden in Lyon's already strained finances, especially when you're not seeing the results. Lyon's problems, they run deep. We're not just talking about a few bad transfer windows or a couple of poor managerial appointments. This is about fundamental identity of the football club being lost. The fans certainly aren't buying the optimistic messaging. There have been protests, and who can blame them? They've watched their club go from Champions League semifinalists to mid-table mediocrity, and a major shift of external ownership that didn't necessarily come with a fundamental approach to the market. We didn't witness an integration, but rather a revolution, but it hasn't came to fruition, at least not just yet. This hasn't just been a decline, it's felt more like a collapse, and it could get even worse. How do they balance the books while staying competitive? Can Lyon rebuild the recruitment network? Will the famous academy start producing stars again? These are serious questions being asked, and from the outside looking in, I don't know that we have clear answers on the next steps at the organization. And perhaps most importantly, can Lyon rediscover what made them special in the first place? Because that's what's really been lost here. The reputation, the status. Lyon used to stand for something in European football. They were the smart operators, the talent developers, the ones who could compete with the big spenders through intelligence rather than wealth. I even question, is that period at the top lost? And maybe I'm naive as a football fan. At some point, does development still exist? When we discuss and analyze and do deep dives around the biggest leagues and the top performing clubs, the amount of money being spent is monumental. The investment is just different. We don't have measuring points from the past, and the stories of local heroes, I'm not sure they can exist as we move into the future. And I'm not trying to be negative. It's just a question or something I've internalized and had this discussion with many fans across the world. And the story of Lyon's decline is a stark reminder of how ruthless the sport of football is. Juggernauts can fall, and at the end of the day, the fans pay for the brash businessmen's decisions. And it's a reminder that no club, no matter how well run or successful, is immune to poor decisions or mismanagement. And the foundations that took decades to build can crumble in just a few years if not properly maintained. Just ask Man United fans. I say all this, but heading into 2025, Lyon's made some movements. If you're looking at the table, we've seen a resurgence. They might not be challenging PSG for a title run, and I could be a little bit of a pessimist with some of the club revitalization at the moment, but there is optimism around Pierre Sage being the right man for the job moving forward. And for the sake of their passionate fans, for French football, and for everyone who remembered what this club once represented, let's hope they find their way back to its core, the foundation. Because football needs clubs like Lyon of the old. Clubs that prove you can do things the right way and still succeed. So let me pose the question to you. Is the club culture just shifting? Is the future of competitive football mostly around the money? Am I being naive to romanticize the past times? We found this story of interest. Let us know in the comments.